I'm
Hi there.
Christina, and I'm here with Martina, and we're your podcast hosts for Everyday Ordinary Extraordinary Men. We are deep divers and avid students of life and powerful facilitators for healing. In real life, I'm an intuitive healer who loves to blend massage therapy and energy work to provide customized holistic services.
And I'm a life coach specializing in parent and women empowerment, and I'm also a sound healer. And we incorporate crystals and essential oils, angelic Reiki, and of course, intuitive guidance into our work.
So here's our context. Most humans have a lot of preconceived notions and stereotypes about gender. For example, men can be tough and silent, forceful, where women can be chatty, manipulative, or emotional. In doing that, we put people in a box and often forget to see beyond those labels. And if someone's not fitting the mold, we might call them names like tomboy or sissy. Those and similar labels often cause discord. What would world look like where we go beyond our preconceived notions and understand that we are much more than our gender? That we humans are strong and soft and gentle, deep and powerful, tough, fierce and open, that qualities are not specific to a gender, that we all have all qualities available to express. What would a world look like where we are all free to be who we choose to be and express all of our emotions? When we allow ourselves to express the so-called masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves, we set ourselves free. When we allow others to do the same, when we accept all of them, we create synergy, peace, and harmony. And today we are happy to welcome Jeff to the podcast. So Jeff, go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Um, my name is Jeff Malone. I am a transformational leader, consultant, coach, and a friend of Martina's for many, many, many years, and happy to be here with you ladies today.
We're so happy to have you here too, Jeff.
Yeah.
When I thought back, you cannot imagine how excited I was when it came to me to contact you, and I'm always like, oh shit, really, I have to reach out. I've not spoken to you in years. But I knew, like, I know your heart, I know your beauty, I know, for me, you're this big, warm hug. And so when you said yes, I was so excited. And I'm so thrilled to have you here with us today, Jeff. Now, if we really knew you, what would we know about you?
Mhm. Well, if you really knew me, you'd know that I'm kind of a hybrid, that you know me within the transformational world, within the spiritual world, within uh, um, having spent years doing transformational work, and me as a transformational educator and coach, but I come from the corporate world. And by the way, found myself incredibly uncomfortable in the corporate world, not knowing it for many years, but then realizing it. And so I can kind of walk in both worlds and do, and see it as something incredibly powerful, because my current business, I coach individuals, I coach executives, and I do sort of emotional intelligence work with organizations, trying to help them, give them skill sets on how to become better people, better people. And so it's interesting to be on this call with you, because you probably don't know this about me, Martina. My son was epileptic, and they told me that he had 4-quadrant epilepsy, which is incredibly rare. And they said he'll never be able to do anything. Well, I think you know me well enough that I didn't accept that, and went, okay, wait a minute. And I studied multiple healing modalities for years before you even knew me, and was doing all kinds of healing. By the way, my son no longer has epilepsy. Okay. And so I can relate deeply with what you're doing. You probably didn't know this. I did healing on Debbie all the time for years, Debbie Ford,
Yeah.
our joint teacher. So it's kind of exciting for me to be here with you and to hear what you're doing. Right now, this world needs to really take a look at the spiritual side of things. And, I'm looking at this level of chaos and going, okay, it's time that what we're doing is we're opening the door for the next thing. We're opening the door for what's going to happen, and at sort of a return to compassion, a return to empathy, a return to love. So there I go. Oh, there off I go on a diatribe, right?
Very good. No, and it's interesting because you say return, and that always leaves me a little bit like, no, we need a next level of it. It's not returning, it's moving forward into a new iteration of all of that, at least for me.
Mhm.
What do you say about that?
Well, see, I think it's innate. One of the things when I started working with Debbie Ford, a lot of the emphasis was on fix your dark shadows. We need to integrate your dark shadows so they don't run you. But I probably have coached more people in Debbie's work than anyone on the planet. And what I found was some people, they reach a point they can only go so far with their dark shadows. And I went, okay, wait a minute, why is that? They integrate it and it's still there. And what I realized was if they don't integrate their light, they can't integrate their dark. So I started pushing, Mary and I started pushing the whole idea of light and how important it is. And so when you say return to love, we come onto this planet completely full of love. When you see children, they aren't embarrassed about anything. They just stand in the full authentic expression of themselves. They're filled with love. It's the socialization that changes that. And so for me, it is return because it's to remember who we are. It's to turn that light of love back on inside of ourselves. And yeah, it may be that we can shine it even brighter than we have before, but it is turning what is existing in us already back on and remembering we're filled with love. So
Remembering.
that's
Yeah.
how I see it and why I say return.
Yeah, it's remembering.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
For
No,
me,
it's
Jeff, it makes me think of the initial creation, right? The God spark creation of our soul. And like what love, like what was that spark of love that created that, right? Like can we go back to that initial creation?
Yeah, exactly. We are created and come out in that. Okay.
Yeah.
And all we have to do is remember that. And for some reason, socialization teaches us to forget that if we want to fit in, we have to be different. And it's why this whole conversation about woke is so troubling for me. It's, wait, woke is being compassionate and empathetic and caring and loving. Are you kidding? It, how can we condemn that?
It's
How
become
can we?
such a derogatory term, right? It's like, oh, woke person, right? Rather than, wow, yeah, somebody who's awake, somebody
Oh,
who's
wait,
listening,
to your point,
aware.
Christina, we deny our divinity
Mhm.
in ignoring that spark. That,
Yeah.
for me, God doesn't work to us. The divine doesn't work to us. It works through us. And we are channels, we are conduits, and we have to remember that. And once we remember that and we allow that to flow through us, magical things happen, incredible things happen. It's, I should be dead. I went through a horrible medical situation, just a series of horrible medical situations, and my heart gave out, and I'm here. In
Mm.
fact, they told me I'd never walk again. They told me that I was going to be on heart meds for the rest of my life. I'm not only walking, I'm hiking. I said, no, I don't believe it. I don't accept that. And I
Mm.
connected with the divine spark and remembered who I was. Uh, do I have limitations? Sure. I got a 76-year-old body. It's limited, but
Yeah.
nothing has to stop you.
Yeah. It's our conversations that stop us. And I had this conversation with a client this week who came in a fibromyalgia crisis and was just really in a bad space. And it's such like the divine timing of the universe. He was a canceled appointment from a snow day on someone else's schedule, wound up on my schedule on a day I don't normally work. I did angelic Reiki, but we talked the entire time. And at the very end of the session, he was like, wow, I didn't think anything could make me feel any better because everything that normally makes me feel better, I've tried and it hasn't worked. He said, but what I realized after this hour with you is I'm doing all the right things, but my headspace hasn't caught up yet.
Yep.
So I just need to start upgrading my thoughts and I don't have to fight my body anymore. I can love my body. It was the most beautiful experience I've had in a long time with a client. And to get to that space where he just realized his thoughts hadn't caught up to where he is in life yet. So beautiful.
And it's also redirecting your thought.
Yeah.
Debbie Ford, my teacher, gave me a phrase that it stayed with me forever. She said, okay, your life is in the toilet. It's terrible. Everything is bad. Now, how are you going to be happy? And if we make our focus on being happy, on what we're going to do to make ourselves happy, what we're going to do to make ourselves healthy, what we're going to do to improve our well-being, we're not thinking about everything that went wrong. And that focus on everything that's wrong drags us deeper into that well. And you're right, that's what you gave him. Hey, wait a minute, there's something else for you to put your thoughts on and manifest.
Yeah. So good. So good.
That's great.
All right, we're gonna move into our icebreaker question. Tell us a funny, silly, or embarrassing story, Jeff.
Oh God, my wife will kill me. She swore me to never tell this story, but it's such a good one. When we first met, we were seeing each other, and I said, "Hey, I'm going on this cruise with the organization I work with. Do you want to come with me?" And she said, "Yeah, that'd be great." It was a spiritual thing in the Caribbean, and it was one of the first times that we were together in a room. So we spent the first night in the room, and it was wonderful, wonderful night. And we got up in the morning, and I went to go to the bathroom, and I came back, and she went, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Did you have an accident?" And I said, "What?" And she pulled back the cover, and on cruises they leave mints on the bed. I slept on one, it melted. And there's this big brown smear on the bed. And this poor woman is sitting there going, "Oh my God, he's had diarrhea after being with me."
Oh my God, that is the funniest. And she
I
stayed
know.
with you.
Now, and you can understand why she doesn't want that story told, but it's such a great story because it 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 created a new level of intimacy between her and I, where we can talk about anything, and that's what
Absolutely.
it takes.
Yeah. Just to be able to say to you, like, hey, what
Are
happened?
you okay?
Like,
And
yeah,
pull the cover back and show me.
yeah,
So you know what
yeah.
I did? I knew it was a mint. I reached down, grabbed it, and tasted it. She was horrified.
Wow, that is just such a cool story, right? And it reminds, like what you were talking about is like that opening up, right? There's like everything goes if we can tell all our secrets. That's one of the exercises I loved, and I keep talking about them. In our training with Debbie was that share your secrets, right? So there's really nothing to hide, and you can be free, right? And it seems that she was courageous enough to talk to you about it, and you were like, "Oh, okay, no." So
Well,
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
you reach a point in your life where if you don't do that, you're kind of violating everything that you are. That I think we hit a certain when we're young, when we're teenagers and even young people, they're so concerned with acceptance. They're so concerned with fitting in and looking right. And am I acknowledged? Am I recognized? And as you get a little older, it's kind of like the value of that goes down. It's not as important because you started to accept yourself because you've reached that point. And I think uh, 10 years earlier, that would have been a horrific thing. But at a certain age, you go, "Hey, this is what happened." Mary and I, we've based our relationship on two premises. One, all feelings are welcome. Okay. and we don't own the other person's feelings. We don't have to take responsibility for them. We have to allow them to be expressed and stand out there. And two, we wake up every morning and decide that we want to be together. There is no obligation. It is a choice every day. And the freedom that exists in that is such, it creates such strength.
Mm. It's so powerful. It's so incredibly powerful to do that. I remember I have a friend who, like, every year she sits down with her partner and her husband and says, "Are we still going to do this?" Right? It's like that freedom to really sit down and consider rather than staying that. But then you said that, it doesn't get as important to fit in and look perfect. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that. But because if you look at what people present and how people walk around in the world, it takes a willingness to show yourself, right? Because we are in this straitjackets in our society, unfortunately, about, like how we should look. And I believe it has a lot to do with our human instinct for survival, right? We need to be part of a group to be able to survive in society. And that's why it's easier for us to point out all that is wrong rather than what is right, right? Because if I point out what is right or what I'm good at, or like my light, as you were saying before, we might get kicked out of our group because we're a little full of ourselves, right? Which is a little sad because it is our God spark, right? It is the essence of who we are, that beauty, that light, that all of that. So,
Well, I hear you. And I know that a lot of people are dependent on the approval, the recognition, and the acknowledgement of others. But for me, that it speaks to the fact that we haven't given ourselves that recognition, that acknowledgement.
mhm.
And when we start to do that, everything changes. And I'm not saying I'm not, I don't crave appreciation and acknowledgement and recognition. But what I see in today's society is a dependency on it, that people are looking to the outside for that. And you're right, it creates a scenario where you're trapped. And, a lot of my work is to get people to see that and go, I'm not going to stand in that anymore. I cannot tell you the number of friends I've lost, okay? Because I have a lot of friends that support Donald Trump, okay? They're friends. Well, I there is no way that I can agree with that. There's no way that as you I'm sure have noticed, I'm pretty vocal. This is absolutely disturbing to me, and I think a horror for our country. And some of those friends, they don't want to be friends anymore. I'll be a friend with you. The fact that I disagree with you doesn't mean I don't want to be friends with you. It just means you're stupid.
Yeah. Well, it's challenging because we're so it's my way or the highway, right? We
Yep.
live in this world where it's my way or the highway, and rather than, yeah,
But it's
this
also
is
funny the where we choose to draw that line in the sand, right? Like you like Trump, I can't be friends with you. But you like Thai food, I don't. I can still be friends. Like it's just silly, right? Like there's plenty of things we don't agree on, and you're fine with it. But then it comes down to you like Trump, done. Like really?
It-
It's just
yeah.
funny.
I remember I
it-
remember that sentence in Challenge Day where it was like, "Oh, you like Fruit Loops? I like Cheerios. We cannot be friends, right?" And it's a little bit that conversation, right? It's
yeah.
like, okay, yeah, but it
Especially when you see like families and friendships torn apart. It's like, whoa, didn't we have enough that we loved about each other that we could like withstand not liking the same
yeah.
political people?
Well,
Like it's just funny to me.
I'm old enough to remember this happened when Richard Nixon was president. this was happening in the country when Barry Goldwater was running, and I was anti-war against the Vietnam War, and I mean, it was nasty. People would throw stuff at you. I had a guy try to pick a fight in a bar with me because I said something, and it we what happens is I think there's a level of insecurity that manifests as arrogance, as righteousness. And we have a very insecure country. The pandemic it undermined everyone's confidence in everything. That here we have this disease that we can't really deal with, and it's really scary. And then the country's falling apart under leadership that can't handle it. And it was not just the country, it was the world.
Yep.
And so we're in PTSD. And here he is back again. Okay, so it's been reactivated in a horrible way. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but after the election, I couldn't even watch the news for about 5 or 6 days. I couldn't look at it. And so when you think of it in terms of PTSD, then all of a sudden you go, oh, I've got trauma around this, and I need to take care of myself, and I need to do whatever I need to do around the trauma. And I think in many cases it activates trauma from childhood, of where you've had something occurred that just absolutely scared you to death, and you thought you were gone. My brother and I went for a hike when I was 6 years old with some older boys, and we had just moved to this new town, and we went for this hike. And the older boys, we hiked way up in the mountain in the woods, and the older boys went off without us. And my little brother, who was 4, and we don't know how to get home. We get lost in the woods. And my mother ended up sending the police out for us. I mean, the whole thing. I was traumatized for a long time because I thought I'd lost my family. I thought I'd never get back, and my brother was going to die because of me. One of those. And none of it real, eventually, but we get that scared, and I think that's what's happened. Especially, when you look at where men are, I think a lot of men are just scared to death. I'm not going to have power. Oh my God, how do we hold on to what's going on? It's like, if you knew who you were, if you were centered in yourself, none of that would matter. I mean, my wife is one of the strongest people I've ever met. She's an anchor for me. And Martina, as you know, I spent 10 years with Debbie Ford, who's one of the strongest, and she was not an easy person to work for, but she was unbelievably strong. And you know what? It's like you adjust and recognize women for the powerhouses they are, and all of a sudden everything changes. Everything, they're your partner. They're not someone trying to get you.
And I think that's really like what we want. Like, we want people to see people as people,
Yeah.
right? It's like, you were talking about woke before, and my brother was asked me, because my brother lives in Argentina, and it seems that they're using the word woke, and I'm like, it's a Spanish-speaking country. What are you doing with that word, right? And he asked me, so what's your thought on it, and what the meaning of it, and it reminded me a little bit of that dehumanization that happens, right? It's like, it's easier to attack you if I make you something rather than a person, right?
Yep.
And we have the opportunity to heal on a completely different level, right? That's why we have the situation we have right now, because it's called for a whole different level of healing that is coming, right? And it's challenging, it's challenging. And it's like, can we, as Christina said before, can we just not allow any real estate in our brain to things that, like, and you were talking about that, right? Happy, right? It's like, not allow any real estate other than what we want to focus on. And it's one of the most challenging things, because I believe we humans are so lazy with our minds, like so incredibly lazy with our minds, right? With everything else, we're quite quick, but with our minds, it's like, no discipline there.
Well, in what Mary and I teach now, one of the things that we try and get people to understand is that the mind and the heart are designed to work together,
Mm-hmm.
and that the heart tells you where to go. The head tells you how to get there. The problem is the ego will jump in. Sometimes the heart wants to tell you how to get there, and the head wants to tell you where to go. And when that happens, things get messed up. It gets all conflicted inside. And so you have to constantly be checking in, and to kind of address the point you're making, that, I look at healing and I see healing as a adjustment in consciousness, that it's always there. We just have to let it in. And I watch people that actually hold the very thing they need outside of themselves, push it away. And, and talking to what you're talking about, Christina, the sort of the energetic part of it, the energy's out there. It's always available. You just have to let it in, and you have to let go of the energy that isn't working for you. This morning, my wife walked up to me and she said, "My arm is killing me." And so I said, "Okay." And I grabbed it. And I could feel immediately she had a huge energy imbalance. It was really intense on this muscle in her arm. And I said, "We just need to move that energy out. You've got too much energy." "What? That sounds pretty woo-woo." I said, No, just let me do it. And lo and behold, she's moving her arm. Okay. All of a sudden it feels better. And so, and it's that's physical energy, but there's emotional energy, and there's spiritual energy, and there's intellectual energy, and all of them you need to have balance and be okay with them.
And it's all of it, right? It's like we have to start listening to our bodies.
Yeah.
Because they're telling us constantly. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Isn't it great when your mind tells you what your body's thinking?
It cannot be that that's there because of this. It must
Yes.
be because of something else, right?
And how do you tell your mind to shut up?
Well, that's a good question, right?
It is the only question.
So Jeff, what was your biggest lesson? Like, what was your biggest challenge, or what made you who you are today? What took the most courage, or when did you stand up for something that mattered for you?
Well, that's a lot of questions.
Yeah, so you pick one, you pick
All
all
right.
of
No,
them, you answer one with all of them,
well, they
whatever.
all kind of tie together, actually.
Right.
Yes, they are.
Um, in 1994, I found myself working for a corporation. Um, I found my marriage falling apart because I was working too much. I had two kids, and I wasn't home. I came home one day, and my wife at the time looked at me and she said, "Do you know how many days you've been gone this year?" I said, "No." She said, 185 traveling. And I went, "Oh, whoa, hang on." And the interesting thing about that, 6 months later, my son started having massive seizures, 100 seizures a day, and some grand mal. And so I was faced with this, okay, what am I going to do with my life? Because I cannot travel. My wife at the time couldn't handle it. We were at a place where we just knew that it wasn't working, and I needed to be there for my son. So that's when I started on the healing journey, studying all of the different kinds of healing that I could do for him. But it opened me, and I recognized that I'd kind of made a bad choice. That in college, I made the choice of, okay, where am I going to make the most money, not what's going to make me happy. I'm a Stanford MBA. I did the whole thing, right? I drank the Kool-Aid, but I was always unhappy. And I was unhappy even when I was making a lot of money working for corporations. I was unhappy because it was so unethical and it was so out of integrity, and it didn't feel right. I wanted to be a teacher. I'd always wanted to be a teacher, but you don't make money as a teacher, right? That's you don't want that job. So the challenge was, okay, what do I do with that? How do I make that happen? And it started with me just starting my own independent consulting business and, I was doing some executive coaching, but I didn't know what. And I had this friend who said, let's go. This woman's coming to San Francisco and she's going to do a book reading and book signing. And her name was Debbie Ford. And it was her book, Spiritual Divorce. And we went and I sat through the lecture and it was a revelation for me because I sat in the back of the room for an hour and a half. And at the end of the thing, I got up. I was the last person in line to get my book signed. I walked up to her and I said, my name is Jeff Malone. I want you to remember it because we're going to work together. And the rest is history, that I needed to do that. The challenge was to have the nerve to follow my heart. And I think it's the challenge for almost everybody. And especially for men, because we're told not to do that. We're told, don't trust that. Trust your head, trust your intellect. And it's true. But as I said, the heart tells you where to go. And if you don't listen to it, everything is off. Everything feels weird. It's where I think women have an advantage in that I think you're programmed to listen to your heart a lot more than men are. And so that skill is there. It's innate. A lot of women don't listen to it, but it's there and you're trained to do it. So I guess what's happened is the biggest opportunity in my life was to find out that actually it was exactly what I needed to do. I needed to be in this field. I needed to be teaching. I needed to be working with people. And when I talk about my consulting business and even a lot of my coaching, it's more teaching now than coaching. People want to know, okay, how can we look at this? What do we need to do? I do what I call cultural work with organizations, trying to help them understand how do you shift a culture? What do you have to do? And so, yeah, that's the big opportunity. It's created this whole avenue for me. And to be honest with you, I'm doing much better financially than I was in 1994 in corporate work. And I was a Stanford MBA with, I had all the credibility. So hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. I was like, is that also where you took a chance for love for yourself, or is that something else? Right? Because
No, you read that absolutely accurately. It was the first time I went to a shadow process, I knew that I would be there forever. And in fact, Debbie had already started the coaching training program, and it had been going for 3 weeks. And I walked up to her and I said, "Will you let me in?" I wasn't in my coaching training program, and she said, "Yes, I will." And the rest is history. You don't work for Debbie Ford for 10 years and not come from love, because it was hard. This was it's 24/7. And so it was worth every bit of it. And I became a different man. But Martina, you remember the workshops.
Yeah, I
What was
do.
the male to female ratio?
Oh, it was slim. But yeah, it is that, like, it's
85, 90% female, 10% male, led by a woman. As a man, it's a thing I recommend. If you want to really improve yourself, work for a woman and work around a lot of women, because it will change you. You will learn so much. It's not just that you become more sensitive and more aware. You become smarter. Women make you smarter.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Guys don't get that.
No, but her work is also about breaking open your heart over
Yeah.
and over and dig deeper. And there's the next level of opening your heart, and there's the next level of opening your heart, right? It truly is. And for me, and you might remember that for me, like when I went to the first training not the shadow process, but the first training in
Coaching training. Okay.
coaching training, I cried the whole way through. Literally, we just had come from the hospital where they had reconfirmed my son's diagnosis, and it was like, it was really like,
I
okay,
remember.
so this is what it is. I get to choose, like, what do I need to do to be happy anyway? What if they never move out? What
Yep.
if this is the best life gets? What do
Yep.
I need to do? And it's really like the breaking open of your heart and again and again and again. So it's been really,
Well,
really
think about
fun.
it.
Yeah.
Can you be really smart if you haven't broken open your heart? And you have to have a willingness to break it over and over and over again.
In Rebecca Campbell's Stone Oracle deck, there's a card. I think it's, or maybe it's the Starseed deck. There's a card called Cracked Open, and it says, "You've hit rock bottom and you're cracked open, but now can you stay open?" Because normally we hit rock bottom and we want to go back into our little turtle shell, right? But can you stay open? Can you? And I love that card. Whenever it comes to me, I'm like, oh, okay, cracked open. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and love is actually the ultimate protection,
Yep.
right? It's just we forget because we've been so trained not to listen to it, right? But it's like it's the ultimate protection. There's nothing other
There's
that
a
will protect you as much. So
there's a lesson, and one of the things that I do with a lot of my clients about love, that you have to balance love, that men are taught that it goes out and they don't know how to direct it back in. And so what it does is it creates this need for love coming in, that we have to balance self-love with love of others, or we become a drain on the others around us. And the unfortunate thing, most men are not taught that. They're not taught. And it's true for women too. A lot of women, they get trained in that love for self is a bunch of physical and, manifestations, and that's not what it is. But guys, we're programmed not to. And we got to be stoic, we got to be tough. That box that you referred to, it's a tough thing because it's really laid on us. And even today, after all the work I've done, sometimes the box shows up around me. And I have to remember and go, okay, who am I being? What am I doing? I'll get, like, my wife will come to me and go, it would be really nice if you did it this way. And I'll get defensive. Wait a minute. And it's an autonomic response. It's weird. It's an autonomic response. I have to bring my consciousness back and go, wait a minute. This was a loving gesture on her part, trying to tell me something she needed. That's all. She's
Yep.
not making me wrong. She's not saying I did anything bad.
Jeff, it's actually funny because when Martina and I first met, we were at Landmark Education in the core supervisor program, and Martina was in charge, and her job was to tell us all what to do.
Yep.
And there was something about the way she communicated that rubbed me so wrong, and I was just so on it for like a day. And finally, I had to just like get myself clear, like, she's in charge. She's just telling you what to do. Get over it. Like, that's like, what is wrong with you? Like, who cares how she's communicating it? That's her job. She communicates differently. Get over it. And once I could do that, Martina and I like fell in love with each other.
Yep. Yep.
It just is what it is. I'm a strong Aries. I don't like to be told what to do. I had to be like, oh, I'm here to volunteer. Guess what? People are going to tell you what to do. That's how it goes.
and as you know, Jeff, we're 2 days apart. So I'm a strong Aries too. So we were, it was interesting.
Well, there's an interesting thing about not liking people to tell you what to do. When you're one of those people that doesn't like to be told what to do, it's innate inside you, right? Here's the problem. Your psyche can't distinguish who's telling you not what to do. And when you tell yourself to do something, you hear it as someone's telling me what to do.
Yeah.
There's
I
so many
definitely
people I
have
work with,
that.
they're
I
going, I can't lose weight. I can't create a relationship. And I'm going, well, here's why. You're telling yourself to lose weight and you're going to tell them, screw off. No way, I'm not doing it. Give me
yeah,
a cookie.
yeah. It's like, I'm not gonna, you're not
Yep,
gonna like me.
that's right.
No, even if I tell it to myself,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
So
it,
funny.
it is fascinating, right? And then you just can go deep diving into those parts of yourself, and it's like, oh, look at that. It's like,
So I think there's one thing I want to add to the answer that on the questions you asked a little bit earlier. The biggest revelation I've had is to try and for myself and for my clients to get them to reconcile their will versus divine will. I see people just struggling with life. You know, that metaphor of, are you swimming downstream or upstream? Are you swimming against the flow or with the flow? And for me, it's very simple. You know, divine will is the flow downhill. Okay. It's when you're swimming in that, everything is easy. And when you're swimming against it, it's your will. And I cannot tell you the number of people that struggle with that, that is the fundamental issue. And, when you open your heart and you expand your consciousness, all of a sudden, divine will becomes very clear. And you don't need to protect yourself with your own will. That's all it is. You're protecting yourself with your own will. So that's sort of my big, and it's the thrust of the work that Mary and I do.
yeah. But it's the our own will. Yes, it is the trying to control and manipulate everything because we feel unsafe,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Again, coming back, can we step into that divine spark and know that we're protected and that everything is happening for us, not to us? It's such a big, big, big topic, right?
Yeah. And there's a little thing to that. The divine spark isn't separate from us. It is us. It's the only way the divinity manifests on the planet is through other things. And everything is divine. So you just have to connect with that.
Mhm.
And that's where the healing comes too. In fact, there's almost no need for healing if you can actually stay in the divine spark because it is. As I said earlier, I've had a lot of things. I was in a horrible car accident and a very bad injury to my back, and I lost the use of my left leg. And I got it partially back, but I was in a very bad place. And then I had a heart attack and I was in a really bad place. And then I had kidney failure and I was in a really bad place. And all of this stuff kept happening. And I'm going, why? Why is this me? Da, 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 right? Just total victim crap. And then all of a sudden I went, well, wait a minute. I've lived a pretty full life. I probably brought some of this on myself. There's no, and maybe the message here was slow down. Uh, you're trying to do too much, and you're not listening, so we're going to slow you down. And when I did that, it all turned around.
So
So
good.
yeah,
So good.
yeah,
Joe, what would you say your superpower is?
warmth.
Mm,
That was
yeah.
fast.
Well,
Like,
I
it's right
thought
there.
about it, when I read the questions before the call, I thought about it, and I went, okay, I disarm people, and um, I'm this big teddy bear, okay? I'm a lot of people's dad, okay? The dad they never had, okay? And I try and be this warm presence, this safe presence. People are longing for safety. They're longing, we want connection, but it's got to be safe. And, for women, connection with a man, oh my God, is it safe ever? It's so hard to create. And so I realized that's what working at Debbie Ford all those years, because I'm around all these women and here I am, this guy, and I'm single, and they're going. So I learned to be warm and safe. That's my superpower.
So beautiful.
It works in coaching too.
Oh, it works. Like that's for me, it's really like who I know you as, right?
Yeah.
Really. And it's just such a gift and such a blessing, right? It's like
Christina,
particularly,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
but you know, particularly when we're doing that deep work and really opening ourselves up to have people hold space for us that's just, yeah, it's the biggest gift. So sorry, you were going to say something to Christina.
Well, I was going to say that I was known for my hugs, Christina, that we would do workshops, we would do trainings, and people would line up so I give them a hug because they wanted to feel that. It's like there's a people they're so desperate for touch, safe touch,
Yes.
safe connection. And when they get it, it's I would feel people just relax in my arms, men and women.
Yeah.
Just I could just feel them let go. They'd come in tense, and I'd hold them, and I wouldn't let go. And they would, after a while, they would melt.
Yeah.
And again, that's when that divine spark happens because they feel safe enough to go, oh, I remember.
Yeah. It's so powerful. Oh, a good hug is just, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a very
So
special, safe space.
it is, it totally is. So Jeff, if you had a magic wand and you could give people any quality, what would it be and why?
Inequality. I would give them courage. Yeah. There are so many things out there that we have access to, but if we don't have courage to use it, if we don't have courage to accept it, if we don't have courage to embrace it, it doesn't matter. And that's been my experience in 25 years of coaching, that most people just don't have the courage to really allow themselves to be fully expressed, to allow what's inside of them out. It's scary to embrace your greatness. It's scary to embrace, your brilliance, your how compassionate and loving and caring you are, and how beautiful you are. That is scary, and we need courage to do that. It doesn't take a lot of courage to admit there's something wrong with us. It takes a ton of courage to say, I'm great. And
Mm.
so, and that's part of the imbalance right now. It's why so many people in this country are in this negative, bigoted, judgmental place because they don't have the courage to embrace their own light. Or at least that's my theory.
Yeah.
So yeah, courage.
I love it. Yeah. Just to take that first step or, yeah. So
Yeah,
good.
whatever it is, and it's not about a huge transformation. It's about taking that first step.
Yep.
That's all it is. Just put one foot in front of the other and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Well,
Yeah.
even the courage to look,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Even the courage to
Mm-hmm.
look, the courage to ask for clarification, the courage, like, I keep in
To
my
admit you're
mind,
not happy or to admit,
yeah,
you
to
know, yeah.
admit something, right?
Mm-hmm.
What keeps swirling in my head is like I remember when I recorded coaching sessions for the students, and I got feedback from you, and I remember I saw it and I was like, oh, it's all bad and wrong. I'm a bad person. I'm a blah 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 blah. And finally, a friend of mine read it, and she's like, Martina, this is extraordinary. Right, but the courage it takes to first show it to someone, and then the courage to read it again, and look from things from a different point of view, and it's like, yeah, I totally get that, totally get that.
Well, if I could give people in the world that's what I would give them. And there are a lot of people that are incredibly courageous. Okay. So but it feels to me that it's missing. It's especially missing in leadership.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, I have great concerns about where we are as a world. I do not have great concerns about where we're going. And I allow that to pull me forward, that I see the possibility of what's coming. I know what's coming. And that is how I get through the day-to-day stuff that's horrifying.
Yeah.
I know what January 20th is going to be like. I know what the first 2 months of this administration are going to be like. And I'm ready for it. It's like, okay, it's going to be horrific. It's not like I haven't been through horrific before. I've seen a lot of horrific. And, people are going to get hurt. The fires in LA, they're horrible. They're horrible. I lived in it 4 years ago. We had fires 1/4 mile from my house. We were blessed and saved. So we have to focus on what's coming. And yeah, spend time on what's here. And, I think reach out to each other and care for each other and, try and create as much as we can in terms of community. And that's why Mary and I have been doing a call for 10 years to just maintain and give some people some sort of value on that. And I think that's what we do, each one of us individually. And you find where your courage can be expressed. This is what you guys are doing. It's great. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. We're trying to do our part, right?
Yeah, you're doing it.
To help people see that, you don't have to live in your stories or the boxes that people put you in, that, there's more to it than that. So thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Last question, Jeff. What's
Uh-oh.
what's the legacy you want to leave? What do you want people to remember about you?
That I didn't just care. I did something.
Mm.
I acted. And I want to be that demonstration for people. There's a lot of people out there that they care greatly, but they do nothing. And you want to shift the world? Take care and turn it into doing something. Anything. So yeah, it would be that combination. Compassion and action.
You definitely are that. So thank you. Thank you for doing that work in the world. I feel so blessed to know you. And it's been a pleasure to just hang out here with you. But you have a business. Do you want to tell us a little bit? Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about what you do? And I don't know if they love what they heard, how they can
Oh
find
my
you.
God, Martina. I'm a jack of all trades. Okay.
Okay.
I coach individuals. I coach people through relationship issues. I coach executives. I do a lot of executive coaching. It's a trip to executives. You go in and they all hire me to work on strategic stuff in their business, and we end up talking about their personal lives and how bad it is. Okay. And that's all that work. I do strategic consulting with some businesses, and I do cultural work. I go in and I've trained sales forces, I've trained management teams in how to operate. Uh, Management is an interesting thing. It's another relationship. And most people don't understand that management is a relationship and you have to have relational skills to do it. So, yeah, I do all those things. and it's funny. I operate on referrals now. I don't market a lot. And I've been busy. In fact, recently I had a pretty successful regular coach come to me and say, will you coach me through the shadow and teach me about it? Because I feel like I need to have that in my coaching practice. And it felt like a wake-up call to a certain extent. I mean, this is somebody who's big time, right? And I guess that's what I do. I if there's a need, I try and fill it, and I love working with people, and I love helping them.
And the easiest way for people to find you is through your email address, or?
Yeah, I've got a website, but I don't really do a lot with it. It's like I said, I stopped marketing a few years ago. Yeah, Jeff@jeffmalone.com. You can't miss it. And but what they'll do if they're really interested in me, they'll reach out to you, and you can give it to them.
Okay, very good. Well, we're gonna put
Yeah,
it all
it's
in the
Jeff at
notes.
jeffmalone.com, and I'm happy to help anyone. You know, I have 25 years of doing this. I calculated my hours of coaching at one point. I have 17,000 hours of coaching.
Wow. So you are a master.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your heart. Thank you for being here.
You're both very great women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And for all of you out there, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If you love this, please leave us a review. Please check out Jeff. Please, if you want to find out more about us, our Linktree, our Linktree profiles are in the notes as well. And share. Okay. And please remember that you are extraordinary and you rock. Have a wonderful day.
Bye for now. Jeff, do you want to end for us?
Sure. It's off.